Welcome to this Legacy series, interviews with people from around the world who are sharing their insights about legacy and how they are living from the legacy that they're deciding to leave. And I have Cindy on with me today, and I'll have her introduce herself.
Hi, Stephen. My name is Cindy DeJager, and I am just 4 months ago moved to Vancouver Island, BC, and closer to my daughter and my granddaughters. Well, I've got two magazines right now that I've been doing for 7 years now. I've got a writers magazine called Opal Writers Magazine. And I just started a new magazine for the holistic and energy healing modalities. And that one is called Opal Rising Magazine. The reason that there's a really big reason why I started that second magazine, and it's because as I've been aging, I'm kind of returning to a point in my life where the interests that I had when I was a lot younger are kind of returning back to me. And those interests were like in the metaphysical, and you go through your whole life and you live the day to day, and you and I think that's where we accumulate our experience and our wisdom. And then there comes a time in our lives where it's time to reflect, and those interests just return to me. Sorry, I'm not a very good speaker. So
just be you.
Yeah, so I just had this really strong interest to go back to the metaphysical and wisdom, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm exploring those topics now, and I'm just really interested in connecting with spirit at this point in my life.
Okay. Well, you use the word aging, and sometimes people, often people associate aging and legacy and sort of put the two of them together. I don't necessarily do it that way, but let's just pick up on the word aging and legacy. And one of the things that I mentioned was I'd like to explore what you understand legacy to be about, and then I'll share a little bit of mine, and let's weave a little story together and see what happens.
Sure. For me, legacy is really deep. A lot of people think of legacy as, leaving something of themselves behind for their loved ones, their children, their grandchildren. And that is, legacy. But for me, it goes a little bit deeper than that. I remember, I think I was probably in my early 50s when it really started coming together for me. And I think that was because I'm a mother. So it was in my 50s when my daughter, she was growing up, she was married, and she had her own children. And there was this moment when it was kind of like I experienced the same feelings that my mother had when I grew up and had my daughter. And so there was almost like this connection in time where I was feeling exactly the way that my mother felt when she became a grandmother for the very first time. And now I was feeling this feeling. And then I went even deeper than that. I could feel my grandmother. It was, this linear time going backwards, and all of the same feeling moving forwards to me. And to me, that was almost like my first introduction to legacy, because it was the feelings, it was the experience, the shared experience of my grandmother, my mother, myself, generations of the same experience. And that's where I am today. And now I'm 64. So, and I don't mind sharing my age because I'm really proud of aging. It's not a bad thing. You know, we attach a lot of stereotypes to aging, but it's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And there's the wisdom in there that is so beautiful. You can't put words to it. It has to be experienced.
And I'll pick up on that is because in my definition of legacy, which is about the useful what's, which is time, effort, and money, that you gift others in whatever way it might be. It's just time to be with you, effort to play with the kids, to the money to put a park bench plaque on, like,
Yeah.
whatever in between. But it's really about then your decision to gift that to others, not give it, but gift it to others so they can learn from your lived experience. And you're sharing what I would call the sort of the constellation of family, your grandmother, mother, you, and now you're a grandmother, and you are feeling the legacy story, which is wonderful, right? And expressing in such a beautiful way that is something I'm hoping that the listeners and the viewers are picking up and going, legacy can be as a grandmother.
Yes.
And what that entails for the grandkids, because one of the areas that I'm fascinated with is grandparents introducing their grandkids to the outdoors, right?
Yes.
And I never met my grandparents, and I'm not going to be a grandparent. So I don't feel it. So your wording that you just shared, the feelings of what it means to be a grandparent from a legacy point of view, I'll never get that opportunity. So it's wonderful to hear it and get a sense of it from you at this moment. So could you just explore a little bit more about grandmother and legacy
Oh,
from your
absolutely.
perspective? Yeah.
I just had the most beautiful experience being a grandmother. My granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, just turned 18. And I got to share with what I chose to share with my granddaughter was something that I held, that was mine, that I've had my whole life, and I gave it to her as a gift. And the thing that made it more special was the time. It was the element of time, giving that gift that I'd had all my life that meant so much to me, to pass on to her. And I think what that did was, I want to kind of share traditions, because it changed something in her. It was the first time that she had ever received anything from me, her grandmother, that I had had my whole life. And I saw this immediate change in her, because she now had something that she really cherished. And I saw that she wanted to continue that same tradition, to hold something dear from me. And I can tell that she wants to keep that, and she will give it to her daughter. I'm not sure if I'm clear there. It's difficult.
That's great. Yes.
It's difficult, but
yeah. Well, it's the sense of fibers to threads, right? To cords, to rope. You can sort of get that feeling of it going through this something that you gave. Yeah, I feel, and I'm sure the viewers are picking up on that, and that's such a lovely way of looking at legacy that sometimes we just sort of pass by, right? And
well, I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
we so often we don't see how special and how beautiful that motion is. We, like you said, we just pass it by as though it's just a an action, an emotion that we just do, we take. But really, it's so much deeper than that, because you really do, you affect the other person greatly.
And they have the ability to learn something from your lived experience, in this case, the
Yes.
tradition and
Yes.
the passing along of something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But another word that you used was wisdom.
Yes.
Can you link wisdom and legacy for us from your perspective?
Oh, that is really deep. I think maybe the best way that I can put it into words is our whole lives, that linear line that leads to this moment where we are today. And for me specifically, I really feel this this real intensity at this time in my life, where I can see and I can feel the wisdom from everything that I've done to this point in my life. And I'm sharing that in so many subtle ways with my family, my friends, sharing my experiences, my legacy. This is tough. This is really tough. It can mean so many things. I mean, it's not just our feelings, but it's everything that we have, that we've done, that we share. And
I know that as a writer for yourself, like one of the ways in which you express it is through writing, and you have the magazines that are helping writers, and a lot of them are sharing
Mhm.
legacies, right? And doing it from that perspective as well.
yes.
And I think
Yeah,
if we,
writing is a really special way of sharing that legacy.
yes. Well, I have this program that I'm creating called Writing Your Legacy Story. And
Mhm.
it's about, then if you write the story, then what can you do with the story after that? There's lots of things. Well, I could turn it into a book. I could turn it into a TED Talk. I could create a retreat from it. There's lots of things that you can do. And by just taking a look at the story that you can write and share for the world, right? And
Mhm.
I think that that's particularly important. That's why I believe, I'm going to ask that we put in how people access your magazines, because I think the two of them will be great ways in which to not only share your legacy in a sense, but also help people maybe frame up their own legacy, because sometimes searching for that project can be a little bit difficult as well. And to your point, yeah, it's hard is when sometimes when you get to talk about it, all right, you sort of go, what's the word? And that's just part of why I do this series. Cindy, I do this simply because I want people to hear the authority, the position, the voice, the mastery of each person. And it's not like it's right. It's just an element of living. That's where I'm
That's so
hoping.
beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I'm honored that you've asked me to share with this share with you today, because there's so many times, I mean, it's all the time now, that I have so much time to think about where I am and what I'm doing with my life. And it is such an honor to be alive and to be in this time, despite what the world is doing and how crazy it is, and elevate yourself just a little bit higher, be on top of the building and look down and look across the horizon to see how beautiful things are, rather than being down on the ground floor and right in the muck, right?
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful time to be alive.
I'm enjoying it, and I get to use things like this Zoom recording system to talk to wonderful people like yourself, and I'm reaching out all around the world to just get people to share whatever comes to mind around legacy. And I use a couple of words that I pick up, and grandmother wisdom writing was sort of something for you, and that's a thread. And then how that comes out, that's the notion of legacy projects, legacy story, legacy contributions.
Yeah, the expression of it.
The expression of it, and how each
Yes.
person does it. And that's so important, right? It's so important. So maybe just before we're going to head towards closing here, the other component is, seeing as though you have grandkids, do they ever talk to you about legacy? I'm just curious. Is that word ever come up at this point?
No,
Right.
I don't think it's in their framework yet. I think they're still they're knee deep in living. They're still forming and creating who they are. And you don't see legacy until you're, I would say, probably in your 40s. You really don't start thinking about legacy.
But at the same time, I'm just curious, is that you gave this really wonderful story with your granddaughter.
Oh,
and
right.
she's
Yes.
picking up the traditions.
Yes.
Would that be like a fiber to thread to rope kind of story around
I
legacy?
think it's a spark. I think what you do is you ignite that spark, so that that was the very first time for her that she received that spark, that inclination that this is a special moment, and it has to do with time, and it has to do with heritage and legacy.
Wow.
And
that's great. Thank you, because when you said that, and I was putting together going, no, well, hang on a minute, I think we actually have a really great example in the story you shared. So thank you for
thank you.
legacy spark. I may have to look at that word. So thank you.
Yeah. And see, this is one of those moments that, for your viewers out there, this is a moment that could pass them by without them even realizing how special it could be and what it means to the other person.
For sure. Well, if you had the final word going out on this video, what is it that you would like the viewers to know?
Oh, listen to your soul. Listen to it.
How does your soul speak to you?
It used to be really, really quiet, but I learned you have to learn how to listen and to trust what it's saying. And I think the more you tune in to yourself, your soul, I think the more you trust what it's telling you. And I think that would just be my message, is to tune into yourself, because there's your spirit, your soul has messages, moments that you should be paying attention to.
And if I may, by extension, sometimes those I call whispers, intuitive, they're not usually intuitive shouting, they're intuitive whispers, right?
Yeah, it is a whisper.
For some, that actually might give them a lead to their legacy project.
And it will. Yes. It will.
And that's wonderful as well. And I think, again, the magazines that you have, the one around writing and then the one you have around the metaphysics, I'm going to encourage those who are listening in. The links will be around the video
Oh,
somewhere.
thank you.
And we'll make sure that people can tap into what you're sharing and draw from that even ideas for their legacy projects.
Oh, that would be fabulous. Yeah, I would love to hear from anybody. My magazines are open to submissions. And if I had some submissions from people that, you know, have felt content, I would be honored to receive some.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, then I'd like to thank you. I'd like to
And
thank
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This was really fun.
Yeah, a little different. I appreciate that. And because one of the things with these legacy interviews, if people haven't, who are listening and viewing, is that I don't put a lot of front loading for the person coming in for the interview. It's just meant to be, as you show up, you show up. What happens is what happens. Sometimes there's quiet moments. Sometimes there's pondering, right? And you're off thinking, oh, how do I answer that? And it's
Well, it
all
does.
that. And that's just all within the interview. So.
Well, it's great because it really makes you go deep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I will, let's close this up and thank you. And best wishes to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.